Minutes past 7:30, just let folks trickle in. While we're waiting, you guys can see a little bit about our event, which is happening next weekend, November 7th and 8th. It's called Passive Investor Ed. If you haven't signed up, please check this out. And it should be a very informational, a lot of great speakers, and a lot of great information for you guys from a passive investor perspective to learn in this conference. So there's song and dance by Elisa too in the background. Sorry guys, I don't want to bore you with the replays. This is my step-up. Here Hennig from Dallas. I'm trying to see the list of participants that I can. There we go. All right, I'm gonna stop boring you guys with this. Thanks for joining in, guys. Hey, Bharat. Hey, Don. I see some names, familiar names. Hi, Rishikesh. Hi, Joseph, Joshua. I see a lot of the usual suspects. Hi, Manish, Nick Shep. Say hi to us. Let us know where you're calling in from. Hi, Sheetal. Thanks for calling in. Hi, Sudhi. All right. It's 7:31. Let's give it a minute and we'll get started. We have all our panelists on today, and they also happen to be my partners. So this is cool. I love doing this. So
this was an easy sell, huh?
This was an easy sell, right? I didn't have to work hard for this. It's like, hey, can you guys come talk at my panel? Done. No delays. All right, I'm trying to skip this. Sorry, guys. All right, we will get started here in let's get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a panel discussion on the secrets to creating passive income. I always knew that I didn't want to work in my corporate job forever. And I know my dad worked in corporate for 35 years until he retired. And I always knew that that wasn't going to be my path. I just didn't know what path I would actually take. I really had my aha moment when I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like a lot of you guys might have had the same aha moment with Robert Kiyosaki, and he's influenced a lot of us to take this journey. And this idea of passive income really sank into my head. Passive income is income you don't really have to work for, whether you are on a beach in Hawaii or in the mountains in Costa Rica. The money comes into your bank without you having to work for it, versus active income, where like your jobs that you actively have to work for before it pays you, right? Today, I'm excited to have our passive income experts on here today to share their secrets in creating passive income and achieving financial freedom. I'm lucky to call today's guests not only passive income experts, but also my partners in this business. So today I'm excited to invite Ramesh, Raj, and Elisa on this panel. So Ramesh, a little bit about our guest speakers today. Ramesh Nachiappan from GK Capital. He is based in Avon, Connecticut. And GK Capital focuses on affordable multifamily apartment buildings with upside growth potential. Ramesh possesses an entrepreneurial mindset with focus on honesty and integrity. He has been investing in real estate since 2008. His general partner portfolio consists of over 1,500 units. That's basically the number of doors, worth more than 125 million in value across Atlanta, Indiana, and Texas. He has also completed several full cycle deals, both as a limited partner and a general partner. Ramesh is in the process of creating the Passive Investors Millionaires Club, and I want to be a part of that club too. He holds MS Mathematics, a degree in MS Mathematics with a strong financial background. And I can vouch for that. Ramesh can, like, he's got a computer in his head, so he just spits out numbers all the time. Formerly, he was a director of risk governance and compliance at the Hartford, Connecticut. Raj from Smart Capital is a full-time real estate investment firm. And Raj has been investing in real estate since 2012. With a background in business, tech, and data analytics, he's able to leverage software tools to analyze markets and deals in order to maximize returns while minimizing risk for his investors. Prior to founding Smart Capital, Raj was a successful product marketing and technology professional. He holds an MBA from Damore McKim School of Business, unless I totally butchered it, at Northeastern University, and a master's degree in computer science from IIT. That's in India. That's a premier institute of India, by the way. Raj manages over 1,000 units as a GP in apartment syndications. He's also the member of Forbes Real Estate Council, where he frequently contributes on the use of technology in real estate. Last but not least, I have my friend and partner, Lisa Zhang from Easy Real Estate, also the founder of Easy Financial Independence University. Elisa is the owner and principal of over 1,000 plus apartment building units via 1031 exchange and syndication. After quitting her day job, she was a product manager in Groupon when she quit. I still remember that. To invest in real estate full time, she is passionate about teaching others to do the same. She now focuses her time and expertise on typical 9-to-5ers to quit their job in 10 years or less. So she has this 10-year goal of having her Financial Independence University students quit their jobs. She has executed several successful projects, both tenancy in common, JV partnerships, and other kinds of projects with over 30 to 70% internal rate of return on each project. Elisa has also received extensive CCIM training and is a founder of the Northwest Apartment Investors Group, host of Easy FIU, among other organizations. Panelists, thank you all for being here with us and taking time away from your families to come talk to our audience today. Before I jump into the panel, I have a few housekeeping items to go through. So always, this is educational purposes only. Please always consult. When you make any kind of investments, always consult your own attorney, financial advisor, or CPA for all matters concerning your finances. A quick housekeeping, some quick housekeeping items. Everyone will be on mute. If you have any issues listening here, hearing me or any of the speakers, please let me know ASAP. Also, if you have any questions for our speakers today or our panelists today, please locate the Q&A box and use this. I always get people asking me this. Webinar will always be recorded and the link will be sent out within 24 hours. Please whitelist my email and add it to the contact list so it can go to your inbox. A little bit about me. A lot of you folks know me. For those of you who have just joined in for the first time, I am from Bangalore, India. I moved here in '98. Also have a master's in computer science and spent a lot of time in technology in Wipro, IBM, and Atlassian. I have also been a real estate investor since '09 and transitioned full-time into real estate last year. I'm a founder principal of Cherry Street Investments, focused on education, passive investments, high cash value insurance policies, and real estate brokerage services. Sounds like a lot of things, and it is a lot of things. I can barely keep up with it. For those of you who are interested in catching up on recordings that we have done before, I have a lot of webinars, about 50 recordings here on this website, on YouTube channel called Cherry Street Investments. Feel free to subscribe here, please. It would really help me promote these videos and reach out to more people and help more people. I also have a Facebook group called Purely Passive. I think we have about almost 1,000 people now. So it's been growing by your word of mouth. So a big announcement here. You guys saw a preview of our big conference. It's actually the four of us putting the conference together. So I thought, why not get my own folks to come talk to you guys about their passive investment journey and how it has shaped their view of the world and investing. So this is our conference. It's November 7th and 8th. Just a little bit about what we cover in this conference. We have 2 full days of conference, Saturday and Sunday, and a lot of people are like, I can't set aside the whole weekend for this. You don't have to attend the whole weekend. You can just attend the sessions that you want to. We will be providing recordings of all the sessions to all the registered attendees, so you will have access to those sessions for 3 months at least, if not more. We have Kenny McElroy and Neil Baba covering very important topics about the state of the market and how you can invest in the COVID environment, and also the best markets to invest in this environment. Ken, if you don't know who Ken is the real estate advisor to Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is Robert Kiyosaki. Elisa, we cannot see the book. It's cutting out, but yeah, that's Ken. We will also raffle out some of Ken's books soon. Anyway, I don't want to make this a sales pitch here, but definitely check out the conference. When I first started investing, I really wanted to learn about multiple asset classes, but all I could do was go learn about multifamily or a specific asset class. I had to kind of choose my lane. And I feel like as a passive, we really need to expand our options to invest across multiple asset classes. And so it's our brainchild to bring multiple asset classes under one umbrella here. So we have mobile home parks represented, multifamily, senior living, and self-storage, all of them in one conference. We also have folks coming and talking about CPAs, talking about tax reduction, asset protection. I'll be covering infinite banking, and Ramesh will be talking about financial spirituality. That's very important. Your mindset and how you handle your finances is very important to making money. And Elisa will be talking about the roadmap to financial freedom, how to actually create a roadmap so you can figure out where you are to where you want to be. Last but not least, we have Raj, who will be hosting a passive investor panel. We have some amazing guest speakers, including passive investor, passive MD, passive income MD. I believe his name is Peter Kim. He's got a huge following among doctors. We have Jeremy Roll, who's considered a passive investor extraordinaire, and 4 more people on the panel. So definitely a lot of content there. So this panel is sort of like a preview of our passive investor panel in the conference. So this is sort of like a little preview of what's to come, and it's going to be more comprehensive in the conference. Some of our speakers, Ken, Neil, Anna, Vinny, Shahid, they'll be talking about senior living and some more. So we have a great lineup of speakers here. All right, if you want to, you can buy your tickets now. It's passiveinvestored.com, and you can use the special webinar promo called Cherry 27. I won't tell you the price, but go check it out. It's November 7th and 8th, Saturday and Sunday. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists, and I'm going to turn off the video. Turn off this slideshow because I don't need it. Did I lose you guys? All right, there you are. Okay. Sorry, give me a second here. Let me get kind of realigned here. All right, so let's start with the passive panel here. If you wouldn't mind, guys, could you introduce yourselves one at a time? Let's start with Elisa.
Awesome. I've got this giant glare in my face, so you can't really see my face. So I'm Elisa Zen, and Kavitha is too kind. She basically gave me all these titles that I didn't even realize they existed. So I'm the owner principal on about over 1,000 units in Phoenix and Dallas markets. Currently, we're involved in about 8 projects, I want to say. And I also passively invested. A lot of people didn't know, but I passive invested in about 6 deals over 1,000 units in addition to that, just purely passive check mailbox money. And I started in 2009 as investing in single family. And when 2015 comes around, my daughter was born. So really kind of gives me, that was my big why on getting into the passive investments. And really try to look at real estate with a second look at real estate and see how I can make it work harder for me, so that I can have the freedom time to spend with my family and do what I wanted and be the boss of my time. So from there, went through some journeys in terms of switching our single family holdings to a small multifamily. And then from there, then grow into larger multifamilies. So that's when I met Kavitha, and Ramesh, and then later on Raj, in this space. I think it's just fantastic to not only actively be in real estate but passively invested in this as well. There's some big tax benefits in terms of getting tax write-offs and even benefiting from past W-2 jobs, which I quitted last year. But still benefiting from tax refunds from there due to the real estate activities I do and a passive investment negative K1s that I get from these passive investments.
Awesome. Ramesh, do you want to go next?
Thank you. Thanks, Kavitha. Thanks for inviting us. We're just glad to be part of this passive investing panel as a preview for the upcoming conference. I just came to this country like everybody else, probably migrated here like 1998, same year as Kavitha did, but I didn't fly in here. I came by car. So that how did this guy come from car from India? And that's an unusual question. That's right, because I was living in Toronto for the last 2 years and I drove here. So I had to go through the customs and security at the border of Buffalo, and that's how I migrated here. And then I just worked here for almost like 18 years in the IT industry, with 14 years in one company and 4 years in the next company. And when the first transition happened, right? Like when the first time when I was, we favorably used to call unhired from the job, and that is where this passive investing kind of came into the picture. So we just started doing these kind of things. I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son, one senior in college, and a younger one in 6th grade. So nice family. So making things happen fast forward, we just when the second time it happened, I thought, you know what, this is it, I'm going to be done with this. So I just want to move on, and doing this pretty much passively created those financial steps to make it viable to live from what we get and money in the bank kind of thing. So that is how I kind of transitioned to being really a real estate investor kind of thing going forward. And that's where we are today, and actively passively investing in real estate, and making quarterly dividends, pay for the expenses as we move forward. And we are here to more talk about that journey also during the course of this.
Awesome. Raj?
Hey guys, good evening. As Kavitha alluded to, being a technologist for most of my career, had an undergrad in computer science, and then wanted to build the next big, won't call it Facebook, but some big company that I had all these ideas of creating it. So all along I had been a startup. Some went well, some didn't do that well. But I also had some corporate stints in the middle and didn't really enjoy those, so went back to startups. Accidentally got into real estate in about 2012 when a friend of mine wanted me to come invest alongside him in Orlando, Florida. And I said, I have a full-time job, not really interested, takes away most of my time. And then he sort of guided me to the way that it really doesn't require much if you want to be passive. So actually I went and bought a condo there, and started enjoying the cash flow from it. And I was really not involved at all in terms of managing it. I had a very nice property manager, and saw the cash flow, and I saw the prices going up, and there were more units available. So I kept buying one after the other, and I eventually bought 9 condos in Orlando, Florida. Still hold them, beautifully cash flowing. And also, at the time I started investing in passively in syndications. And one day, just sitting on my desk, I look at my salary check that was coming from the startup, and I look at the rental income, and I compare the two. I was like, something doesn't make sense. I'm putting all my energies into this startup, which has a lot of stock options, but who knows what happens to the stock options. And here is the other spreadsheet that I had at that time, which I'm not putting any effort into, and that was more than this number here. I said, this is it. That was the aha moment, and I said, I'm going to at some point leave this job and do this full time. And lo and behold, I finished my 5 years, all the stocks options vested. I had the opportunity to go do another startup or do this full time, and I decided to do this full time. And I don't know, thousands of units later, I'm enjoying it. I'm proud to say that I control my own time now. So it's a very great feeling to have, and we'll talk more about it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Great stories, and definitely see a lot of parallels in them. One of the reasons we all came together was that we had this shared background as well as a passion for educating people and just doing what we had done, right? Like teaching other people how to do what we'd done. So one of the things that changed my trajectory was losing big in the stock market. Losing is always a bad thing. No, not always. Sometimes you learn a lot from losing, right? I was trading options, and the 2008 downturn also saw my 401k, like everybody else's, going down to almost 50% of its value. So I started looking for other investments that were stable, provided cash flow and passive income. And I got into single family investing. A lot of us think, oh, we want a house. That's the best way. When you think real estate, you're going to buy a house. But owning single family homes and doing this for a while and dealing with tenants and toilets and all the fun of homes, like unlike Raj, I didn't have the greatest experience because I was actively managing them as well. And if anybody's invested in Texas, the property taxes are simply atrocious and the cash flow is kind of minimal, especially as the property values appreciate. So it wasn't scalable nor passive for me. And that made me look for other passive investments. So the question for all of you guys is, why passive investing? What made you kind of turn and look to invest passively and kind of relinquish that control? I know all of you started with single family homes or condos. What happened? What was the turning point that made you realize, what, this is great, but I need to do something else? So could you talk to our audience about that?
I'll go first. So yeah, owning a rent, even if it's a rental property or landlording, is still a very active job. You may have quit your W-2, but if you're still spending all your time managing your rentals or managing your portfolio of homes, it's still a full-time job. It's more than full-time now. You have not only your own headaches, but the headaches of the tenants too. And that was not my cup of tea. I realized it very quickly. I am willing to share, whatever profits I have by, hiring a third-party property manager. I really wanted to be passive, and that's what I've done. I don't mind paying property management companies part of the profits, but I sleep well at night.
And when did you actually start investing in apartments and other truly passive, like totally out of control, no control investments, let's say?
So right after the Orlando, thing, I had bought actually a multi-family unit here in the Boston area, and that's where I realized how much work it was. And alongside, I had been studying the whole syndication model. I had a friend who'd been doing syndication for a while, and he had come to me with opportunity and said, "Hey, Raj, you should invest in this, purely passive and blah, blah, blah." And I looked at it and like, dude, there is too many zeros in here. I can't do this. There is way too many zeros for my liking. These are 3 or whatever that time. They were putting in 3 million and raising another 7 million. And I was like, this is not for me. So I passed on it. But that gave me a first insight into what syndication is, how it's done, and got me excited about it. because numbers is easy game. I mean, we all have good math background, so that came easy. And as I learned more and more, I said, this is the thing to do. I mean, this is not only giving, others, way to do it passively, and but you can still do your due diligence as a passive investor and looking into these numbers.
And we'll jump more into due diligence and criteria for passive investing. Elisa, do you want to tell us why I know you also bought some single family homes and I believe duplexes or quadplexes in Seattle. How
Yep.
did you scale up? What made you want to scale up?
So my journey started with a condo, very similarly. I'm surprised, Raj, you still hold them, because I actually found, HOAs are just keep on eating at our profit. So graduating from single family home, our original goal was buy 7 property, pay them off, and that's it. That is a very long game. After we live in Seattle, I know Texas property may be a little cheaper, but if you live in California, gosh, that 7 property is going to take you forever. But we were not in a hurry because we have no kids, no other things, right? So it's like, whatever, just, slow roast it. And what we noticed is that the single family was actually easy to manage, but you're not growing very fast. So when that why happened, when I have my daughter, then it's like, it's not really an option for me to go another 20 years before retirement. So that's kind of when I did a lot of research. And, I come across multifamily. So I owned a small multifamily. I self-operated them, self-renovated them as well, actually swinging the hammer, not me, my husband, I made him do it. So, but like it was the fourplexes, at one point when we were doing these large multifamilies and passive investing in them, we noticed we were spending more time on these fourplexes because we were self-managing them. We were dealing with the tenant directly, right? So it's a very different mentality when you're dealing with tenants. Like there's certain life choices that they make, and then you have to help them like unwind that. It's very different than talking with investors, where you're surrounding yourself by people who are similar to you. So we still manage them ourselves. So we're actually going more vertical in some area. But these passive investing checks that I receive are like the easiest money because I like literally didn't have to worry about it. I get to be on the other side of the fence and be like, what happened to these things? Where's my distribution? I don't do that because I know there's enough hard work involved with the syndicator. I don't do that actually. But also learning a lot from that passive investment, just be a better investor, like understanding their strategy changes, why they're doing this, and kind of looking at like, and sometimes I do provide some suggestions on like, hey, have you guys thought about these, right? In a very constructive way. So I found these passive investment not only help me accumulated experience, and before I actively do large apartment, I did invest in passive investment. So help me kind of understand and a stepping stone into that environment. But not only that, is like these checks, they just show up. It's not even checks, it's ACH. They just kind of show up on my bank. Unless if I set a notification, I don't even know if they're there, right? So it's kind of really nice steady income compared to like stock market, which anytime I do it, I lose money. So don't ask me advice for doing stocks. Yeah.
All right, we'll stay away from any stock market advice from Elisa for sure.
Yeah.
Ramesh, you want to share your story? What made you look for passive? I think you alluded to it a little bit with your daughter, but kind of dig into it a little bit.
No, actually, no, I don't know. Like some other people, I started investing in real estate in 2008 when we had the Great Depression. So we thought, things are pretty low. So we just actively engaged in gaining some flips, multifamily real estate things to gain some experience. But when I first finished my, first job after 14 years in one company, then that's where like things kind of looked different because I had my daughter in the senior, and I mean freshman at high school, and then a few years from there, she's going to go to college. And what happens if I have the same moment that's going to happen one more time, which is happens to everybody, especially right now in pandemic after 10 million jobs lost. There are a lot of situations that are happening to people right now. right? So how can I be prepared when things are going well, and make sure we are okay when things are not going okay as well, right? And that is how it's a very very interesting story that when I had like $25,000 to buy my van at the time, during 2013 when I finished my thing and I was looking for the next one. And I had a friend of mine who I used to work together for 14 years, did her first project like in early 2014, and she was kind of asking me, Ramesh, I'm just going to close this one, but this is a syndication deal, but I'm just short of 20. How coincidence it can be this, right? Short of $25,000. I said, okay. So I was just looking to buy a van at 0%, and things were very cheap, and everybody was offering 0% at the time, and that was my first start of passive investing in real estate, which kind of fetched me 43% a year when she sold after 2.5 years. And there on, I just went really, really aggressive because I thought this is really working. I'm seeing and as Elisa said, I'm seeing my ACH every quarter in the bank account. I always put an alert, so I see it's coming. So, so
You don't trust it?
I, I just want to make sure things are happening, right? So like
He's more
everybody else.
active. Yes,
Yeah.
more
He's
active than
proactive.
Yeah. So
He's a passive, proactive investor.
no, it kind of motivates you to go very aggressive. And then right now I'm passively invested in like 14, 15 deals so far right after that. And as I mentioned in my bio, that like as you talked about it before, I have done like 5 deals. I've completely closed it. And all of them have gained more returns than ever before. And a lot of people know a lot of different businesses over here, but this is pretty much like a capital preservation. And also most of the times, I'm not here to say, and I'm a farmer risk guy, so I analyze things pretty hard, and we make sure things are going okay as well. So, and that is how you out of like 10 things, if you want to compare and analyze, this is probably stand at the top as far as the return happens every quarter kind of thing. Even though there could be, right now it's a pandemic. If you ask me how things are right now, we are being challenged in every corner, and even in real estate, things are happening in the same formula as well, maybe probably in a less ratio than anywhere else, right? So that is pretty much my passive investing story. And believe me, I even though I do actively, I 100% depend on my passive income right now to make sure every household expense is being met. And that is that is a great thing to be, no matter how much you do or don't do it. Your ACH is coming there every quarter, makes you more comfortable and sleep well and take care of the family needs as well.
Absolutely. That's great points. So to summarize, what all of them said was easy money, ACH, transfers keep happening. The need for creating multiple streams of income, right? For those who are in jobs or even in businesses, you can't ever have a single source of income because then you have a single point of failure. Just like anything else, you have to create that multiple streams. Also, passive investing in real estate specifically, we have a tangible asset. So there is that capital preservation standpoint that we all strive for. Not to say that deals haven't lost money. I'm sure they have in the past, but and in the future they might. But we always work to preserve the capital. So I have lost big in the stock market. I have made big in the stock market. And I've realized one thing, you can lose it all, right? Whereas in real estate, that's kind of a little hard to do. And I'll talk about it a little bit when we come to our bad deals, because I have an experience to share, which actually turned out pretty well after all that. And for me, I think there was a no tenants toilets. I know Elisa and I have shared that because we've actually self-managed and actually continue to self-manage. Unfortunately, that I'm trying to sell some homes. So if there are any buyers, let me know who want to jump in. There's a capital preservation aspect. And Ramesh mentioned 43% a year. I have to say that's phenomenal. We don't always meet that goal, but 15% a year is a very achievable goal in real estate, right? And that's really great considering you're putting in zero effort. And a lot of single family homes that I actually have bought, actually make much less than that. And for those of you calling in from Bay Area, if you do the return on investment on your properties, it's probably more like 2 to 3% ROI. I know you don't like to hear it, but that's the truth. If you go do your numbers, you buy a house for $1 million, you make $3,500 in income, actually just in rent, and then you remove all the expenses, there's really not much left for you guys. So really consider putting your money where you can actually make that work for you and create that income as well. So with that, I want to kind of talk about what what is the homework or due diligence that you guys have done on your investments, right? Personally, I jumped into my first deal. I didn't know anything. I literally didn't know. Someone told me they were really good sponsors. I said, okay, cool. All right, let's see the apartment. And I gave them money, right? I would never advise people do that. I always tell people, get educated, do your due diligence. So I want to hear from you guys, what is your top 3 criteria for investments passively? And also how that has evolved with time and knowledge, because you guys have learned a lot over the last few years or last 5 years. How has that evolved? Has that evolved, starting from where you did and where you are now? So why don't you talk to us about your top 3 criteria, and then what are you looking for when you invest in a deal passively?
Maybe I'll go first.
Sure.
Actually, now the thing is, most importantly, in my case, and probably most of the people who have joined, passive investing would have trusted the first coincidence. It's right, the operator or a friend, whoever it is. And I would highly recommend that, personally, it's right, because reason is, I want to get started, and I want everybody else to get started, right? So that as far as the first step goes, that's exactly what I did. I know her very well. We worked together for 14 years, and I know she knows the trade little bit. More importantly, I trusted her, right? So that's where, without asking any questions, what the deal is, where the deal is, what the market is, what the return is, and everything else, no questions asked. I just wrote a check or transfer the money for $25,000, right? That is how I started. And beyond that, probably I would have learned, and which is what I would recommend people to. But if you ask me like 3 top criteria, I would first and foremost put the operators, or whoever you are depending on investing that money. You just go with their trust analysis and integrity and everything else, because they are going to do the homework. Like in your case, like if it's Kavitha is the one who's doing this, and you have to probably trust her, so that she will do all the effective homework that needs to be done on behalf of you, so that things will happen both for her and both for you. And as obviously we all would be passively investing on our deals too, so we are all putting our own money at risk at the same time investors money too. So we will do all kind of analysis to make sure that that is successful. So operator or a friend who's trustworthy is my first and foremost important criteria. Then I look at the markets, like, is this market like really, in a grand scheme of things, pretty viable? And make sure it kind of falls on the top 10, top 5 category kind of thing, and there is an opportunity for cash flow, and and also an appreciation at the tail end. Those are all kind of bundled in when you look at the market and the location kind of thing.
So
Third
we
is my
call
return on.
Ramesh, sorry, we call Ramesh 8pref. His middle name is 8pref. So he's always looking for 8% preferred return cash flow on his
Yeah.
investments. I know that's his
Yeah.
criteria.
That is, the third one is my return on investment. I think she said it before. So now we always look for cash flow deals to make sure, because as a passive investor, I am kind of putting this ACH distribution coming in every quarter as a criteria. That's right. So certain scenarios like this pandemic, if things happen, that's okay. We can live with it, but not on a long term. Like, I cannot wait for 5 more years to gain in the total things during the appreciation at the time of sale. So we just want to make sure the return, whatever the number is. It's like people have different numbers and different philosophies as far as the return of investment goes. But whatever your ROI, probably would be a best scenario to put with. So basically, the operator, markets, and the ROI.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Raj or Elisa, who wants to go next?
I can go. So for me, when I first investing, just like you guys, I met a guy, I trust him, there's the money. worked out well. So that's good. But like I also, my friend Ling actually got me onto the first deal. So I basically, I know he was doing multifamily, but I also had a background on operations. So everything seems to make sense. And the property looked really nice. It was a B-class property and whatnot. So that's how I got into the first deal. And I think my criteria has evolved over the time, being kind of deal maker and et cetera myself. It made me more aware of a lot of other criterias. So someone was posting this post on Facebook asking, what is your criteria for passive investment? And then as someone wrote a huge long article, I wrote a huge long article as well on my own blogs on this. But I basically replied, I said three things. I look at who it is because I'm in this business enough time and I know who the good operators are. So that who is very important. Even if it's someone who's newer, I would like to see their work ethic. So in this time, especially this pandemic time, not everything is kind of peachy. There's going to be projects that's going to be more challenging, right? And there's going to be projects that's kind of smooth selling. So I want to make sure that I have an operator who will roll up his sleeve and then fix some issues if there's going to be problem coming up. So that's like a number one criteria for me. And two is the market. Is the markets that is desirable for me? So I have top 10 markets I like to invest in. And it has to be a growth market. So I always like growth market. I know other people would like to invest in tier 3, tier 4 market for cash flow, but also realize I made my fortunes in growth market like Seattle. So I understand the value of equity gain. So you become rich because you build wealth through equity gain and you quit your jobs through cash flow. So that's kind of important. When you kind of meet that minimal cash flow bar, then you maybe venture out a little bit to look at equity gain projects potentially. So that's that. So, and then you can only get that in a growth market. So that's why I really prefer tier 2 markets. And third is it kind of comes into underwriting. Now I actually just look at the numbers, that the median household income is my kind of go-to Bible number, because the median household income is going to tell me what type of tenants in this immediate 1 mile radius, right? So I'll go to Google and look up for it. I'll ask the operators and whatnot. And then I guess fourth is, for math, because I underwrite so many deals, I don't actually sit through the webinars to look through all that stuff. I basically just asked the operator, gave me the 5-year projection. I looked at a couple of points and I'm like, okay, this is conservative enough. Especially now, want to share this, is you want to look at total income growth, right? When someone's presenting you something, you should look at total income growth. And that's where you have a gauge on how aggressive, the rent increases, the assumption there is. And that should be very low right now because, we're in a market that is a little bit different. So these are kind of things that I look at when I'm investing into an asset. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Great points. Thank you, Elisa. Raj?
So yeah, I mean, same as what Ramesh and Elisa already said. I actually did not invest in my first deal. Like I said, I was not comfortable, and I got to be comfortable at a later time. And damn, if I wish I had invested in the deal because that deal did so well. But again, no regrets because I took my time to understand what is important, and I learned that trusting an operator, all that good. But after doing all these deals that I've done, my number one criteria is the communication that you receive from the operators, right? I mean, the deals will go up and down, but I, as a passive investor, would like to be informed, frequently and honestly about what's going on in the deal. I mean, it's okay, I know this is a tough business, and issues come up. But if I am aware of what the issues are, what is the team doing about it, I am very comfortable with that, and I urge everybody to look into that as well. So that is one of the things I ask for new operators, or new in the sense that if I am trying to invest passively, I ask them for their reporting structures. How have they been reporting in the previous deals? Obviously, I do on my other based on my data analytics background, I do some research, look at the top markets, and at that, place where I am comfortable with all these things is where I invest passively.
Makes sense. Great points. Actually, I want to summarize all the points that you guys have brought up. And it seems like commonly, and as it should be, the number one factor is trust. Trust in whom you're investing with, because honestly, the sponsor is the most important part of the deal. There's just no question about it, right? You can take the best deal, and if you don't have a good operator, it can go wrong. Conversely, if you have the worst deal with a good operator, they can still come out fine. So trust in the sponsor, knowing that the sponsor would have done the due diligence, and also whatever due diligence you're capable of doing those. The second is location, 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 location. Real estate is all about location, right? If the location's right, the deal will probably do fine. Of course, not in the worst sponsor, but a decent sponsor. What I liked is what Elisa mentioned with cash flow versus equity, because I always struggle with that, because when you're looking at retirement and actually leaving your job, you need that cash flow, you need that reliable income. But when you're looking to scale up and actually grow the money you have, then maybe the equity market is, or a equity focused market where the growth is high, and so your money can grow much more on the back end when the deal sells. That's more important, because for those of you who are not familiar with these kind of deals, there is that cash flow component which comes in with the cash flow from the property itself, and then there is that equity component which comes when the property is sold. And obviously, if you go buy a property in Abilene, the cash flow is great, but the equity on the back end is not so great because the market simply doesn't appreciate. But when you invest in a market like Austin, the cash flow might not be great, but the back end return is really high. So you have to decide for yourself, what is the kind of market that you want to invest in? Like, what's more important to you? Maybe if you have a full-time job, the growth is more important, right? You don't need the cash flow immediately. But when you are planning retirement, it's a different thing where you're focusing on cash flow. So the other thing Ramesh brought up is also this whole 8-pref. When you do preferred returns, I like preferred returns for my investors, because it means that preferred means that 100% of those returns, the first 8% or whatever the preferred return number is, goes to the investor. So those kind of returns can be favorable for you from a cash flow perspective, because the sponsor has to perform more than 8 to get paid, which is a good place to put the sponsor, which is us actually. We look for 8-pref for our investors because we like that. Median household income again reflects on the kind of tenants that Elisa pointed to. And the last but not least, communication is super important. So yeah, great summary of the things to look for. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box of any other things that might come up. I also have a due diligence checklist on my website. You feel free to download that for more criteria and more things you need to look at in a deal. But this you should consider as your base minimum to get into a deal, right? So let's now talk about this interesting thing where, have you had any investments go horribly wrong? What did you do different after that? What has been basically the worst passive investment you made? Anybody? How did you overcome it? Like, what did you do different?
Maybe I'll go first.
Sure.
The thing is, in real estate investments, for a deal to go completely south, you have to really work hard to make it south, because the operator has to screw up on all angles to make it south. We can see the failures as of today, but when we say failures, we're not looking at the 5-year process. End of the day, it really failed. Did we lose money on distributions? Did we lose money on capital? So those scenarios I haven't seen much at all. But right now, I'm in a couple of deals right now, out of all the passive investing, where we are not seeing any distributions because of the location preference, that we thought it might be medium to kind of area, but the tenant profile is a little bit different than what we expected. So the things are happening as the change is happening. So it's going to take a while. But basically, how I feel right now is that could be my jackpot out of everything else, because reason is there are a lot of potential on the same deal which hasn't distributed for the last 12 months. We were on a bridge loan for a 6% interest rate. Right now, we are cleared to do a refi end of the month. So when we do a refi in January, February, it's going to be 3%. So once they should be able to catch up on all the distribution spending, and with the 3% delta, they should be able to do a Ref 8 kind of thing based on the capital that's still pending. So having a lot of hopes, even though temporarily it is not performing, but eventually we also bought that location at a very good price. So there would be a upscale in the equity also when we do a sale. So I see, especially, in real estate, there are a lot of, outcomes that could be temporarily negative, but at the tail end, it could be positive. So I would always advise investors who are investing passively to hang on for the time being. And, right now it's pandemic everywhere, small businesses are being even shut. So, you are going to have an impact no matter what. And, obviously when things get better, which is always a cyclical process in the economy. So, which will turn around pretty quick.
So what would you do differently than what you did in your deal? Would you do anything differently?
Probably could have analyzed a little bit more, if I'm looking from a cash flow perspective. But if you're looking from an overall performance perspective, I wouldn't have done anything differently, because, looking at, because right now I'm just also managing the cash flow perspective of it. So it is taking a hit based on that expectation is not being met. Except that aspect, probably I wouldn't have done anything.
Anybody? Elisa, Raj?
Yeah, I can share. So I think the pandemic is being really hard on a lot of deals. In the beginning of March, like basically every single of my passive investment deal decided to hold cash for reserve. What that means is when you're operating, you want to have plenty of the reserve so that it is a hard time. I think cash flow, like I wouldn't call a deal is not performing if you're just temporarily not getting the cash flow as you expected. When a deal really not performing, you would know that, because there's like the risk of losing the deal is the fact that you can't pay the mortgage for that. And that should be, investors should understand that as a priority number one. So you want to do everything because you still, even though you're passive, you're still like a part of the team. So one of these, so all my passive investing weren't distributing. So they were saying, hey, we're holding the reserve for cash. And that redistribution didn't happen. For some of them, they still didn't resume it. But for some of them, that happened after 6 months later, right? So like any investment, you got to know there's just risk in investment and you can't count on 100%. That's kind of my learning from that. And one of the property that did the worst was one of the first ones that we invested in. And it's got, you name it, that there's like, usually they said there's seven reasons for airplane to crash. So it's kind of like up there. So you got asset managers who maybe not very seasoned, who didn't really understand how to read numbers, or on looking on the financials. And then you got property management is bottom line fraudulent, and try to steal money underneath, the nose of asset managers. And then you got a building that is full of crime. Uh, that's like basically the deal that still part of right now. But even then, with all these 7 different things like that goes wrong with it, the property is still currently, it's not distributing cash flow, but it's still currently there. It's still currently there, and it's still kind of puddling around and not going foreclosure. So there's no loss, realize the loss over there. And in fact, there is a potentially upside to Ramesh's point, not the same property that we're talking about here, but it's a kind of similar story there, that they're looking for a quick sell. After 3 years, they're looking to potentially do a quick sell next year, as they kind of working through all these kinks through the deals. So meanwhile, when you're holding the whole property, you're not getting any cash flow that initially you're expecting to get. But on the sale, it's not going to be knock out of the park, but you're still going to be realizing about 30-40% gain on return. So that's still not too bad in terms of investment, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Raj? Raj, you're muted.
Sorry, I put on mute. So fortunately for me, I mean, I haven't had that any bad experience yet. All my passive investments have been paying except one, which, like I said, the communication with the team is so clear and so concise that I reinvested into their second deal, despite being not getting cash flows on the first one. And that's how I am. I mean, I believe in the team. I believe in the work they're doing. I know the distributions are on hold, but I think that will be my jackpot, as Ramesh said. So yeah.
Good for
And I
you.
want to kind of just bring one more thing, Kavita, is the crime rate and location where you invested in.
Mhm.
I think that was a big lesson, among the stuff that passive invested, even with the best operator, in my opinion, when the location is not so great, when hard time kind of hits, it is a lot more up and down swing.
Yep.
Hence, you need a reserve. Whereas a property in a pretty good location, not having such issues, usually we typically see a different type of problem, not like, not be able to collect. Yeah.
I agree.
No,
I
and
agree.
one more thing I'll add is, all operators are not same. I mean, they'll be good operators, but they could be good in their own particular way. Just to give an example, the property that I was talking about is a C-class property. And to deal with a C-class property, you need a whole different kind of mindset. I mean, a operator can be great, managing a B plus or A minus property, but the same operator would not have been able to handle what this team is handling. So that is also to be clear what the background of the operator is. If they have done great deals in the past and now they are venturing into a C deal because the returns are higher, I will be careful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point, Raj. So overall, I think I've had a similar experience to Lisa and Ramesh, where one of my deals went horribly wrong when one of the first deals actually, and I actually got into the deal last minute because I was talking to someone and I was like, "Oh, he's a friend, he's a good guy, let me invest." Right? Bad move. Don't do that. You want to invest because you really like that, not just like the person but also trust the person. I think that's really important. So location, as Elisa mentioned, super important because location can really hurt your deal even if the operator is good, and this particular operator actually was not bad, but they had everything go wrong imaginably that could go wrong in the property go wrong, like plumbing leaks and sewage pipe breaks. The person who was selling the property to them filled it up with homeless people to bump up the occupancy. I mean, all sorts of stuff happens in this business, right? So you really want to make sure that the operator who's coming in understands how to deal with that class of a property, especially the C class, what we call the older properties. Because in COVID environment, especially if you're getting into the C class properties, the actual economic or physical occupancy of the property might be 98%, but only if you're 70% of your tenants are paying, it doesn't really matter how many bodies are occupying the property. So I think it's more important than ever to look at what money you're losing and leaving on the table because people are not paying. So definitely ask your operator those questions and those hard questions. And if they're in a great location with B tenants, you have less to worry about. So do consider that. C is not bad. It's just you have to pick the right people to work on it. All right. Now let's come to one of the questions that I talk to a lot of investors, and I know you guys too do too. So one of the issues that a lot of new or young investors have is that they don't really have a lot of money, right? Passive investing, let's be honest, takes a substantial amount of capital outlay. 25,000 at the very least I've seen on a deal. So not everybody has that kind of money sitting around. So in this business, really, from a passive perspective, it takes money to make money passively. So, what's your advice for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of capital right now, but is probably looking to have that kind of capital and wants to invest passively? So, how did you do it for yourself? Would you like to share some tips with our audience today?
Yeah, maybe let me try this. Right. So as I said before, that is where I started. I had money to buy my car. Everybody does for certain things, right? So you have to start. First of all, you have to have the mindset to start the whole thing. If it's all about looking at the whole perspective and see, I have knowledge, or I trust somebody who has knowledge, right? So then take the first step of doing something. When you always ask the question, I don't have money, obviously you're not going to find anything. Now you try this at home. You just lost something and you want to find it. No, I'm not going to find this. You will never find that material, right? So you always have to say, okay, how can I trace this back? I kept this one in this living room like 30 minutes ago, and now I have to go back and find it. Then your intentions, your conscious, everything is focused to find that particular thing. Then you will somehow get there and do a reverse engineering and find where you left it off or something like this, right? The same thing with finances. You just have to have an open mind that how do I get the money to invest in this? How do I make the money? Then either you will find your old 401k. You will have a lot of places to start with. Now, I cannot believe if somebody comes to me and says, I don't have capital because unfortunately they're not looking at it. They're not looking at the right place where the capital is, even within their own profiles, right? You have a line of credit. I know no none of us who started in this business didn't have 100,000, $200,000 sitting in the bank account that we started with this one. We all went and explored all different possible ways and means to get there. So I can have like 10, 20 reasons not to find money, but I need only one reason to find that money. And if I can get that one reason, then definitely I'm going to make it happen.
Great. I like that. Alisa, Raj, you have any
Yeah.
words of wisdom?
Yeah, thank you, Kavitha, for asking that question, because we actually just recently read a blog about 9 different ways to find money. And been kind of thinking about doing a couch money sessions for my students where you can actually find money, right? So I've kind of analyzed a lot of portfolios for my students over here. And a lot of times I noticed that, hey, there's actually hidden money that you can find. Obviously, sometimes it's a shifting between different kind of assets, your primary home versus the investment property, just how you recategorize that. Sometimes it's your investment retirement account that's kind of sitting there. Only 3% of people in the country, has a alternative like alternative retirement accounts, which we're gonna be talking about in Passive Investor Ed. And how do you actually free that money up in order to invest, right? And sometimes it's if you're young person who just started, there's literally no base, then I would say your best asset is the fact that you have all these energy and you are in the beginning of the line, starting the running the race. So you have all these energy, and time is your best resource. So pick up side gigs, and look at your expenses, and have some ways to kind of reduce your expenses and increase your income. So we kind of talk about at our school on how do you start side gigs? How do you kind of discover that superpower that you have, and then turn that into dollars? And then if you don't touch that pile of money, then all of a sudden, like, people will be surprised that at the end of 1 year, you can potentially accumulate $25,000 to $50,000, and then which you can kind of invest. There's sacrifices to be made. We've interviewed, 20, 30 different people who has reached their FI early in their life. And then there's a common theme that comes up with our podcast. It is basically people who made big sacrifices early in their life by really trimming down on their expenses, maximize the times that they're working, side gigs, side hustles, and they fared very well. Pretty much averagely, why we believe people can retire in 10 years, even 5 years. Actually, I would say 5 years. I'm being super conservative, 10 years, right? Is because, to Ramesh's point, if you aligned your why with your motivation to do work, and have single-minded track on this is your goal, you're gonna find money for that.
Amazing. I've written down all the points, Alisa, and I'm going to reiterate it. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I probably have nothing much to add.
You have been like bowled out with Alisa's response there. All right.
I would add one more thing, Kavita, because reason
Sure.
is, for some people, maybe they're starting fresh or completely brand new. I would appreciate it, and if they can find like 4 friends, 5 friends, and then create an LLC kind of thing and do this every year, like $10,000, $15,000, 20,000. Yeah, I can't. I
It's a
don't have
great
50,000. I don't
point.
have $100,000. Just create an LLC with like-minded people. Then, if you look back after 5 years or 10 years, that LLC might be worth like $3 million, $2 million, where each one of you would be having much more based on it's being compounding, and you're not really taking money out. It's like reinvesting. It's like basically the compounding impact is going to be much more than what you really thought about.
That's an amazing point, and I'm going to write that down too. So there are a lot of really good questions coming up, and I'm excited to jump into the questions. But I want to finish what I have. So just to reiterate what Elisa, Ramesh, and Raj said, it's basically that you have a lot of money, you just sometimes don't know where that money is. Right? It's stock market. I know a lot of. I talk to a lot of investors. 80% of their money is in stock market. Is that a good allocation of money? I don't think so, right? And everybody who's investing in the stock market kind of puts it on autopilot, especially in the retirement accounts. And you ask them what they're making in the retirement accounts, very few people actually know what they're making. They're just like a blank stare. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's invested in some retire in 2040 fund, and they have no idea what the returns are, and they have no idea what the management fees on those funds are. So it's amazing to me how that works. There's HELOCs, refinance, there's money stuck in, especially you California and Seattle people, your home is appreciated a lot. There's a lot of money stuck in there, and you don't even see what the return on your investment on that money is. Like you might have 600K of equity stuck in your home, and if you really compute the return on your investment, it might be 2-3%. Is that the best use of your money? Probably not. Right. Ramesh talked about retirement, and Elisa talked about that too. A lot of people have old 401ks that they have moved from job to job, and that 401k just sits idle most of the time. I'm surprised and shocked to see like people have sometimes 3 different 401ks just sitting around, and they have no idea what to do with it. Right. Sometimes it's in the stock market, again in some fund. They have no idea what the fund is making. So those are all easy places to first look at. And when you do, Elisa offers these consults, and we all do look at our investors' holistic picture. We look at all these little things and go like, okay, let's look at where that money is really. You think there's no money, but we're sure we can find. And I think mindset is a big part of it, like Ramesh pointed out. And the common theme of trimming expenses, and I love that, Elisa, because I have seen that with my investors, and I'm sure Ramesh and Raj, we talk to a lot of investors, and we find that people who have started saving early, started really trimming the expenses early, actually retire soonest. Right? Like it's sort of like you work early, work hard early at trimming those expenses, and instead of keeping up with the Joneses, and I use this expression a lot, it's like my neighbor bought the next upgraded house, or my neighbor bought the next coolest car. Like we have this progression. You go from a Toyota or a Honda Civic to a Honda Acura, an Acura to a BMW to a Mercedes. I mean, is that what you want for yourself, or is financial independence what you want for yourself? And what I found is, and I find with people I talk to, is that those people who have retired early actually have not followed the norm in terms of, okay, my friend did this, my friends or my peer group did this, so I'm going to do it. They have really asked themselves, is this really what I want for myself? I'm perfectly happy driving an 8-year-old car. So kind of think about where your money is going, and is that the right place, or is this aligned with what you really want for your life, right? What else? I love this one. 4 friends who have 10,000, or 5 friends who have 10,000. A lot of people will say, hey, I don't have the money sitting around for it, but could you get 5 like-minded friends to come together and invest in each deal? And no, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be all accredited. I know somebody asked that question, because there are a lot of deals we call 506B deals, where we don't look for accredited investors. Anybody can invest, and you can bring in an LLC into those investments. So no, you don't have to be accredited. So when you work more, you can work less. It's kind of like that when you work more early and then you work less later.
It's like a
So,
startup, right? Kavitha?
yep.
Like, I think we're all techie, so we understand like it's like startups. So someone kind of illustrated this to me. They were like, startup, it's like if people work 40 years and they retire, and startup, you try to cram that 40 years into that 10 years. It's not as hardcore as the startup, but essentially that's kind of like a shortening your time by chunking it all at the same time and front load it, so that you're reducing all these years down.
Amazing. Yep, absolutely. So let's go to the next question. Let's see where we are on time. We are good. I allocated an hour and a half, so we'll finish at 9. We'll get through all the questions. I know there are a lot of questions out there. So they say success leaves clues. In studying several successful people, I find that there's always a one thing that sets them apart or otherwise has influenced them greatly, right? I call it the one thing. I don't know if anyone has read Gary Keller's book. He's the guy who started Keller Williams, and he also talks about the one thing. When you focus on that one thing, you just achieve more, right? Can you share with the audience if there's one thing, maybe that's your child, I don't know, something that's changed your life, a pivotal moment, whether it was a book or a course you took, or a thought, your mindset shift that made a huge difference in your journey?
I'll go this time. I think the one thing that I have taken and followed is just take action. I think you can do all the readings of books, follow people, keep thinking all day or make all these plans, but you got to take that first step to move forward. That is the one thing that I have learned. And without taking that first step, you go nowhere.
Just do it.
Actually, I have my uncle who's also mentors me a lot. Whenever I kind of have a situation or anything, I always consult with him, and it was that awakening moment, I would call it, is like, say, okay, you tell me you're educated, you tell me you're too qualified, and you're telling me that you've lived in many countries, and now you're telling me you're not able to make replace your income. What is wrong with that picture? Because so that was like, he was asking very nicely, like, okay, what is your yearly salary, what's your monthly salary, what's your daily net income that you might bring in after everything else. And I would definitely tell everybody else here, right, is basically between what your net income would be, like between $200 and $300 or $350 a day kind of things, right? After all taxes and everything else expenses. So if you cannot find 200 or make 200 or $300 by using any avenues of stream, and that is where this real estate kind of came into my picture at the beginning, and also kind of reaffirmed later as well. And that was basically my awakening moment, and say, okay, how can I do this? So that is where the thought process went into a direction. How can I do all these things, preserving the capital? And that is to Raj's point, and you take the first step, second step, and be aggressive, get motivated every time, and keep going.
Great point. Alyssa?
Yeah, my one thing will be why. Find out why. So I'm an artist as well. What did I not do? But anyway, so that kind of got me thinking about why. So for me, it was that single moment of where my daughter was born, and we were just kind of this is TMI, but we're just kind of like feeding her at the time, and then you look down to that baby, and all of a sudden, it just emotion takes over you that this baby depends solely on you and you only, and you have to provide for that kid. And then the next moment that is you're going back to work. So that is a very strong why of why you want to do that, right? And I'm sure for Ramesh it was like to provide for the family, so there's an emotion behind it, and then that's a strong enough why, because if you didn't find a strong enough why, there's no motivation behind it, and then you would not like go actively looking for something. It's kind of prioritization, and that why kind of drives you, because it's going to be, I'm not going to say it's like a super easy to retire early, because you have to kind of get into a little bit of an overdrive mode to do research, and then passive investor is a lot easier than active investment, because after the upfront research, then you can kind of ease off, right? So it's kind of that why kind of keeps you going, keeps you wake up in the morning and do all the stuff. So I think that is my single one thing.
That's amazing. So I hear education, go out there and get education, attend our webinar, our conference this next weekend. I've heard a lot of investors say, I can't spend the whole weekend on it. Guys, I mean, if it's that important to you, you'll make the time, right? Whenever someone says, I don't have time, I'm like, no, you make time. You never have time. None of us have time, right? Like we retired and we still don't have time because we try to do so many things, right, with our lives. But you really have to make time to go get educated, to learn, and to go. I like what Elisa said. When you have the why, that emotional energy takes you so far. It makes you push beyond making excuses for lack of time, lack of money, lack of anything, right? It's just you need that driver. You need something to focus on the goal, the end goal of what you're trying to achieve. And that why has to be really strong. So I recommend all of you, like our speakers here today, look at what's your why, what's your why, and it better be damn strong, right? It can be like a week, oh, I want to make money. That's not good enough. There's got to be a reason, right? Like a lifestyle change, like, yes, I got to do this shit. I got to make it happen. So you have to really think about your why and
And
go take action, right?
And Kavitha, I want to share, one single event that really elevated my level. I was just a small time landlord before, like owning a fourplex and etc. I actually been trying really hard for a whole year locally in my market, going to every single meetup that's free or even paid. And then I just feel like there wasn't a limit that you couldn't kind of break through. The breakthrough moment came through me attending a national conference at the time I actually have to fly to there, and then met people at the caliber. Some of them maybe not even as high as our speaker calibers over here. Like met people at that caliber, like people who was at the one level higher than me. Met people who are similar to me that was really high driven, and networked with them, and that kind of launched me off into the next level. So, this could be an event, not try to sell our event over here. So, but like this could be event or any other national level
Any
event
event.
where you have a very high level speaker, like that could be an event that kind of help you launch into the next level. So I think, it's not about just one event, what we're selling. It's like putting yourself out there and then get exposed to all these different concepts, is a great way to kind of get to next level.
I think that's a great
And
point.
Kavitha, when you said the drive, that's right. These it's very very always the mindset that people tell, okay, I can't spend this 2 days, right? Imagine how much time we spend leisurely. That's right. Like lot of things happen. If I want to get something done, right? So if I want to have a job, I need to go to college for 4 years, study hard, write the exams. I don't question those, right? Because there is an impact right after that. The same way, if I want to get financial freedom, it doesn't come easy, guys. I'm telling you right now, right? You have to do something about it. So that is where the drive is. And as far as the why goes, maybe things might be going very well today for all of us, or for most of us, right? Do we all know how is it going to be tomorrow? That is a big why. It could be a job loss, it could be a health situation. I don't want to scare people, but the thing is, there could be any factor that's causing people's life upside down, coming to a different situation. And is it a good idea to be proactive and be planned when things hit the fire, that we are ready to save the family, as us and our kids, or I want to take a reactive action at that point in time? And that is a big why for people who doesn't even think that I don't have a problem on the table. Yes, we might not have one today, but nobody can guarantee what is tomorrow morning.
Yep, absolutely. Amazing. I love it. I love it. So a lot of people get comfortable, as Ramesh says. We get comfortable. I mean, none of us really needed to quit our jobs. I mean, they paid well, right? Tech jobs pay well. For those of you who are tech, doctors, anything, you get paid really well. So there is no why in the income, right? Your income is coming in, but what happens if your income is no longer coming in, right? Do you have a backup plan? What's your backup plan, right? What does that look like? How's your family going to be affected? I don't remember exactly when this was, but I started seeing in 2008, I started seeing a whole bunch of GoFundMe's happen when people got sick, right? And that really hurt me because I was like, these are people like you and me, right? People in good jobs, they suddenly got sick and or they were laid off and they had nothing to meet. They didn't have the resources to meet that health calamity or something that came up. And that really made me feel like that I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be a person who says, if I don't have my job, I don't have anything.
If on December 31st, 2019, did anybody of us had a clue that we have going to have a pandemic 2020? No,
So, yep.
right?
Yep. And so many people lost jobs or otherwise. I mean, we still don't know what next year is going to look like, right? We are
Kavitha,
still
I
sitting in
see it. I
our.
see it. I see a GoFundMe every day now.
It's sad. It's really
Yeah,
sad.
it's very sad.
So I also liked what Arisa said, and I want to bring that point up again because it's probably the most important thing for me in my own journey is what Elisa said. If you look at the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with, their net worth or your net worth is going to be the average of those 5 people. So if you're surrounding yourself with just people like you, there is no motivation, there is no drive because they are doing exactly the same things you are. So why should I change my life? We're all working in great jobs, our lives are good, we're driving great cars, we have great houses, everything's good and dandy until it isn't, right? So what I found myself is that when I went to these conferences, when I went to these events, I met these people and they were different. They were different because they were looking for something beyond what they were doing. And they were ready to put themselves outside their comfort zone, which is what actually made me really excited about, right? I mean, nobody's excited to leave their comfort zone, but when you do leave it, you realize that it pumps you up so much, you're just ready to go, right? And that kind of creates this momentum which causes a lot of change in your life. And for me, the last 4 years have been that, right? Like it just causes so much momentum. I met the right people who inspired me to take the action that I did, and I had no clue that any of this is coming up, right? It's kind of like you don't have to see, you can figure out the end goal, like have an end in sight, but you're never going to see the entire staircase. I don't know, MLK has a saying you just have to take one stair at a time, and you'll figure out, as long as you have your goal in front of you, you just take one step at a time, right? You will get there. There's just no, I mean, you have to trust in the process, right? So that's a lot of information, and I hope you guys noted that down. And I want to also folks to share on the panel what they wish they knew when they got started, right? Because there's some things you look in retrospect and maybe you don't wish that was different, but maybe you wish you had more knowledge. What is a word of advice to folks on here who are looking to create that passive income, who are looking for financial independence? What is the one word of advice or words of advice that you would give and you wish you had gotten when you started 10 years ago?
Invest in yourself. I mean, I've said that it's a cliche now, but I keep repeating it. I've already been on 3 podcasts today, and I've repeated it 3 times already.
That's the fourth.
There is no, and I see some names that are on the previous, when I was there before, they were there too. So it's nothing is easy, but invest in yourself. There is no shortcut to that, and just take the time to do that.
Anything else, Ramesh?
Actually,
Elisa?
everybody is probably, a little bit fearful, even though, first timers, definitely, yes, it's right. So, based on Raj said, gain more knowledge, because, those are the things that, if I look at back myself, there was nobody to tell me what to do or what not to do, kind of thing. So we just go and figured out most of the things ourselves, and later we found out a lot of these conferences and everything happening, so we started attending it and we found out more. I always believe, no matter how many times you go and attend conferences or meetups or anything like that, you are still gaining some one item from that place and take it forward and make it useful. So obviously that way you overcome your fear by gaining more knowledge, and that'll put you on the right path. And if you're already there, that'll make you even more aggressive. And obviously you will take action plans every day. And those are the things I would really recommend. Just overcome your fear by gaining more knowledge.
Alisa?
Yeah, I would kind of repeat the same. I echo the same, and I just kind of share, right? Like I spend $30,000 to $100,000 a year on education, myself. I think that number for some people is jaw-dropping. But now until I never believed in guru programs and etc. before, but not until like I subscribed myself to a mentoring program, then I noticed that there's a 10x growth there, 100, like more than 10x growth in terms of my trajectory. So I think paying for education, investing in yourself is very important, and that helps you. And of course, do a research before you do that, because you don't want to waste your money on certain things. There's a lot of these competitions out there. You want to kind of see how, like, that's going to really help you accelerate your journey, because someone's gonna has been there, right? And someone kind of speaks with you, and they can kind of shorten that period of pain of try and error, to kind of really like 10 times less, than otherwise you have to go through.
Yep, great point. So knowledge removes fear, really. That's it. I mean, if you're fearful and sitting on the sidelines, when you get educated and you know what you're doing, you get more confidence, right? And I think that's what all the three speakers have pretty much reiterated, like knowledge, invest in yourself. And I know I did this initially. It's like, oh my God, it's so much money. How can I put it there? But when you do, and you start to see the changes, it makes sense, right? Like these big mentors, I'm not subscribing to any particular mentor. They don't charge a lot of money because it's some kind of exclusive club. But it is because if you think about people who are willing to invest that money, they're already in a different place. Like they're already mentally willing to be successful, and then you start seeing all these people who are already successful being a part of that group. And again, it's the kind of people you surround yourself with in the mentoring group, and also not making the mistakes that can be expensive for you, right? That's really the valuable part of being in a group that is, you're getting that knowledge and your experience. What else was there? Anything else I missed, guys? Knowledge, pretty much knowledge. Okay. Then you should come to our conference, but not just our conference. There are so many other events you can look up. Meetup groups happen, online Facebook groups. I know Sridhar asked what are the best source of knowledge. There's so many events happening, guys. You need to take time away from I spent every damn weekend driving to Dallas to learn, driving to Houston to learn. If you are willing to spend 3 hours or 2 hours a day in front of your TV, and if you're not willing to take that time away to do the work, then it just doesn't happen. It's just not going to happen. You have to take the time away. You have to go educate yourself. You have to learn about how you can scale up your investments and not just sit back. Yes, passive is a part of it is sitting back, and part of it is also growing. And I know Bharat asked this question. He's like, oh, should I put all my money in passive? I tell people, don't put all your money in one basket. Go do something else too. Go invest actively. Figure it out. You learn a lot, right? There isn't one way to invest. There are so many ways. But passive should be a part of your investing strategy, right? Anything else you guys want to share with the audience today? Anything?
I think
No,
I also shared the motivation for us putting us this conference, right? I mean, it's not for money. I mean, absolutely, this is our passion for putting up this conference is exactly what we're sharing right now. We just want everybody to get, invest in themselves, get educated. What has taken me, Kavitha, Ramesh, and Lisa years, and traveling, reading books, listening to webinars, and we have put a lot of thought into this conference to say, okay, if we have to inspire people, what can we do? That is one of the biggest motivation behind these conferences. So take it seriously. Like I said, you don't have to, but I just want to share our passion of bringing this together. This is not monetary, but our love for sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, and I
and
want
then
to add to what Raj said. Sorry, Ramesh, I'll let you talk, I promise. Is that for me, right, when I thought about investments, I learned multifamily. I just went to a multifamily mentor and that's all I learned, right? I wished that there would be a place where I could actually figure out how to invest in different asset classes because there's some great asset classes out there. And so when we put this conference together, we were like, how can we make this more accessible to other people, not just to look at one asset class, but multiple out there? And to be honest, we had nothing like this, right? So we wanted to set that precedent and say, what did we wish we had when we got started? And that was our real motivation in putting this together. Ramesh, go.
No, actually, no, I would add to what Raj said, right? We created this conference with a lot of background information and the pain points that we did. And we want to provide you those, people who are thinking, okay, well, why do I have to spend like 2 days? This 2 days could be your life-changing event. If you gain knowledge and take action and start doing this and look back like 5 years after, like 2020 to 2025, after attending that conference, I took action and this is where my net worth is, my wealth is, compared to 2015 to 2020. And I always recommend people to compare 5 years before and after, because that is a difference that is going to make in your life. And you will be very happy you did that 48 hours dedicated for your retirement.
And if you don't have 48 hours, watch it later, right? Like watch the recording. Stop making excuses. That's just it. No excuses.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I would add what former President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam said, right? Dreams should not happen in sleep. Dreams shouldn't let you sleep, and that is exactly what you need to keep in mind. Right? If I have a dream, it's not just in sleep. Why you have a dream, you have to make sure you're not sleeping for that dream.
Damn, I've
Then you
lost
then
a
you will
lot of.
find time. Then you will find
I've
time.
had a lot of sleepless nights, Ramesh. Putting this conference together and dealing with the India team has been like hell. Go ahead, Elisa.
Yeah, so I think you guys hit it right on. I don't have like too much to add over here, but I just want to kind of share a little bit of background on us putting this together, right? In the background where we're running is we wanted to make sure the conference has no sales pitch, but also like provides pure value and expose you to different concepts of investment. So then this way there's a follow-up actions, right? Like you go to a conference, it's really exciting. There's follow-up actions. So like you're gonna get exposed to some of the best in the industry. When we say best, it is truly the best. Like you can't really get any higher than Kenny McElroy in the apartment building syndication deal because he is like the real deal. And you can't really get more real than Benny Chopra, who is doing senior living. It can't really get it any more real than Frank Wolf, who is like a top multi-family, so mobile home
Same.
park
Okay.
operator. And then both me and Kavitha has went to his university and can vouch for all that value that he kind of delivers through education. So all these speakers are amazing. And Kavitha in the background over here is being a super controller on the quality of a speaker, that we get on there. So I think we're really excited about this. I'm 100% sure you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And then there's going to be a lot more homework, and that's going to be your moment of discovering all different type of things. And then you're going to be going down potentially a couple rabbit holes, chasing down a different kind of asset types. And helping you making the right decision in investments.
I
And
would
this
I would just add.
conference, fine. Sorry.
No, no, I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, no. I would just add lastly one more thing. It's right. Sharing is caring. Share with your friends and family because you care for them, kind of things, right? So I mean, not only you possess knowledge, also share this information with others. Ask them to attend their conference as well, so that you're helping your friends and family at the same time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Not to make this a sales pitch for the conference, but I think the point is that this is not the only conference. There are a lot of out there. And also in a conference, right? One of the things I want to say is you learn a lot, but if you don't apply it, guys, it's useless. It's completely pointless, right? Like we're not going to say, oh, we'll host a conference. You're going to learn so much. You're going to make money. No, you're not. You have to take action, right? The take action part is the most crucial part of this. You can learn a lot, but you need to go apply it. You need to go pursue it. And all of us have been with mentoring groups. We've spent weekends, we've spent weeks and months and years learning this stuff, right? It doesn't happen overnight. But as a passive, can you get started? Absolutely, right? So you got to really define your goals. If you want to go invest actively, then get educated to do that. Don't assume that a passive conference is going to teach you that, right? So it's really important. Any other recommendations on conferences? We are happy to share something offline, Sridhar. So let's go through the questions. I know we are like way over time, but thank you guys for most of you guys sticking in there. I think we lost 4 or 5 people, but that's okay. Theo says, do you have a formula you use for investable fund? Example, what is the safe amount to risk in an investment versus what you keep in the bank as reserves? First of all, you shouldn't be keeping it in the bank. We'll talk about that later. But go ahead, guys. Anybody wants to take that question? Do you have a
I have a different take than you on this, Kavitha. I think the idle money is obviously is losing money, because if you're not making interest, obviously inflation is eating away at us. Especially going to hear this from Kenny as well, that we believe there's a potential inflation maybe a couple years down the line to correcting all these like additional fund aids that the government has put into the system, right? So then you're really losing money when you have money sitting in the bank. But that being said, there are places where you should have reserves. And like any investment, you should only invest the amount that you're comfortable to lose 100%. And that should be where that comfort level is, and nobody can tell you what that is. Now, if you have real estate properties and etc., and then you have your expenses, there may be a rule of thumb of saying you have 3 months or 6 months of living expenses that you're saving up as a reserve, that you can have access to any time. Now, that being said, could this also be sitting at a better vehicle than just your bank, such as the whole life insurance and etc., so that this way you're not kind of eating away, making choices whether I should invest it versus holding into the bank where I can access to. So that's kind of my 2 cents over here, which is like, is there really a formula? I would say comfortably you want to have access to liquidity that can kind of sustain you for 3 to 6 months, and then the rest of it you should just invest it.
Yeah. So what I call this like the opportunity dollars versus your reserves, right? So opportunity dollars are dollars you want to put it into an investment. How comfortable are you losing? If 50,000 is all the opportunity dollars you have, then I wouldn't go to a passive investment. Actually, I've told a lot of people, no, you need to do a passive investment when you have extra money above your comfortable, I can lose it, when you can afford to lose it. Exactly what Elisa said. The other thing is there is a better way to keep the reserves, like the 6-month living expenses. I have a 6-month living expense thing. There's a better way to keep that than in a bank. And that's one of the things you'll join the conference and find out. I'm not going to say it. So it's called infinite banking. You could look it up, but we will be talking about that in a conference. It is reserves, it is accessible, and it is safe, right? It's accessible within 3 days. So that's something you should look into. Do any of you invest in REITs? Since some have good yields right now, and it is a real estate investment. What does define a good yield for me? Whoever asked that question, I really want to know, because I found REITs pay like between 5 and 6%. That's not even.
There's also the tax benefit you're not harvesting. The reason why we wanted to invest in deals directly, or through passive investment, is that, and then check this on your PPN offering as well, right? Because you shouldn't just assume all investments the same and they will be treated the same. But from all the PPMs I've seen, like most of the stuff that you passive invest, you're also benefiting from depreciation. So that depreciation is going to offset the rents that comes in, which essentially make that almost a tax-free income. Whereas the REITs is treated as public offering. So you was paying basically all the gains, you'll be paying the same amount of taxes if you invest in index fund of stocks. So that I can think about immediately, whether you have a W-2 or you're a real estate professional, all things set aside, there's a tax benefit that kind of increase your yield a little bit more. Now, to kind of kick it up a notch, that tax benefits, what you don't realize that when you invest in REITs, you're missing out on. If you're a real estate professional, I have an article on how to pay $0 on tax income. If you're a real estate professional, then you can actually take advantage of more of that negative K1 tax harvesting, which offset potentially active income. There's a lot of criteria to satisfy that, but essentially, REITs is not going to do that for you. So I can think about these are very obvious reason other than the yield.
The yields are really low on REITs. And also, if you look at REITs, they're usually very large funds. And if you actually look at the back end splits on those REITs, they're really high, meaning in favor of the person running the REIT, because they have a lot of fund expenses that they have to kind of fulfill. So generally, the yields on REITs tend to be really low, and you don't always get the full return on the equity gain that you might actually see in the underlying asset. So it's a great exposure to real estate, but it's not necessarily the best exposure you can with your money.
Yeah, if you have an option to do something else with real estate investments, you should probably stay away from REIT, because reason is, as you said, REITs, there are some of them has 8-9%, but there are a lot of administrative expenses that could offset a lot of
And the
gains.
taxes, right? When you look at your bottom line, right? Like what it looks on paper, the expenses that you're paying, and then what you actually end up paying in taxes on the expenses, on the capital gains that you're getting. And then at the end of the day, what is it that we're really making? And so when you look at that, 8 to 9% return suddenly looks like a 5% return after all those expenses. So not great. Have you had any capital calls in any of your passive investments? If so, what is your thought process on whether to contribute additional capital or not?
I haven't had the.
Yeah,
I haven't had a capital call, but I think it's really important to keep the property. That's what I would think. Preservation, right? Capital preservation standpoint, I think it's super important. If you have to additional capital, do you trust the sponsor? Is it a bad patch because of the deal itself, or is it the sponsor? I think that's a call you need to make, right? Do you
yeah. Sometimes in some properties, like one time thing could have happened, would have made for a capital call, and obviously those are the things that, depending on the sponsors, need to be looked at very closely and make sure you have to float that property until it's sold. So people have to come together and make probably fulfill that capital call.
I would kind of get some insight into this as well. So I haven't had any deal that had a capital call, but there are like maybe one or two that kind of come a little close to that. I would say this: you would look at the cap. Not all capital call is the same. So you have to find out the reason why the capital call is happening and where is the money gonna go to. So if it's a property to saving the property, you need it to flow the deal, but you also need to see a clear exit. Otherwise, you're just kind of throwing money at a muddy pot. Like
a
what
sinking
changed,
ship?
right? Like what changed? So it doesn't matter how much amount of money, it's not going to save that if the underlying process isn't being fixed. Now I also invest in deals where there is a capital call, and I did it because the capital call over there is, there's additional funds for improvements. So hey, we have this additional building that we found out the opportunity to build additional building. Yeah, then you would definitely want to get on that capital call, because you're going to get more returns due to that capital call. So it really kind of depends on what the fund's going to use for. Is what I would dig into a little bit more. Yeah.
Great. No, I think that's true. All right. Have you used leverage to passively invest in deals? Example, home equity, HELOCs, cash out refis, etc. Why or why not? I'll take the first stab at that one. I actually did a cash out refi on all my homes after they appreciated. I pulled a bunch of equity out. I was going to go buy my own deal. Then I thought better, because I didn't want to be stuck managing a 15 unit. So I actually spread that investment, that money that I had accumulated from the cash out refis, I spread that across 10 different deals. So I personally did that, and I highly recommend it, because now it's kind of created this extra source of passive income for me. And I'm sure I could have done that with my 15 unit, but I would probably be spending 30 hours a week on my 15 unit deal. So yeah. Anybody else wants to answer that?
Leverage. Find out all options you can.
Money is cheap right now. It's so cheap. Somebody's giving you money at 2.5%, 3%.
If you have any equity sitting anywhere, and you're telling me you don't have money, we have a big problem.
Right. And don't follow Dave Ramsey. You don't need to pay off your house. I promise. That's a bad,
Yeah.
bad move.
So again, I have a little different take than Kavitha over here because I'm very conservative. So again, the things goes back to only invest the amount of money you feel comfortably 100% losing on. And I think that is very important because you don't want to kind of pull out your bottom line if you have no side in place, because it is an investment. It has risks. And if you're not comfortable with taking that out, then don't do it, even though it's sitting there as lazy cash, right? But that being said, sitting there as lazy cash is probably the biggest risk that you can take on your investment. I went to this Charles Schwab's presentation. I didn't do stocks. That's fine. I just went there. And basically, one thing was shared. They did a portfolio analysis on a person who was consistently making like wrong decisions over the course of like 10 years, right? And then the person who's making all the right decision over the course of 10 years. Basically 50% of the time, the person who's making the wrong decisions actually comes on the top than the person who didn't invest at all. So think about like that as like a power. So, like I would say, if you do have lazy cash, don't let that kind of sit around.
Yeah, good point. So we'll speed this up a little bit. One person will answer the question, whoever that is. Santosh asks, if my goal is cash flow, what is a good cash on cash return on a decent real estate investment, not a class C? It can range from 7 to 12, 11, depending on the asset class. So I'd say mobile home parks, you're probably getting higher cash flow. Apartments in a great location may be lower because the equity is more important. So it can range between 7 and 10, 7 and 11 that I've seen. Let's see, any other question here? What is my question to all? Is there any data studies, whichever is more profitable for the investor to buy an asset? Which way is more profitable for an investor, not a syndicated, to buy an asset, stabilize it? I'm not sure I understand that question. Anybody wants to take a stab at it?
I'm not sure I understand it either.
Yeah. Okay. Please,
Yeah.
Joseph, can you restate that question, please?
Maybe he's asking any different thing other than syndication, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of other options besides doing syndications, right? I mean, there isn't one way to do things. There's always multiple ways.
Oh,
so-
he did include it later, and sell or
Oh.
refi again every 5 to 10 years. So whether to sell or refi, I think is the question over here. Which way is more profitable? I think it depends on the projects on this one, because we've kind of done multiple, like on both ways. Refi, you will refi on the project if you still cash flow very well, because you don't want to get into a negative cash flow situation. So if you did a BRRRR strategy or whatever, or value add, and you can get like a pretty much 100% of your money back or 80% of your money back, reducing the risk of that investment, and then it still kicks you out of cash flow, it's great. It's a home run for that. But if alternatively, when you're selling a project, there's tax impact over here too. Certain projects you want to sell because you don't want to hold it anymore as an asset, because the asset either is taking too much of your time or it doesn't fit with your strategy. So then in that case, you want to sell. Which way is more profitable? It really depends on the projects. If you did sell and did a 1031 exchange and then leveraged on the next acquisition, that can be a big snowball effect. But that being said, it's the same as if you refied it and put the money that you got refi into another investment, right? So both methods are tax-free. So not tax-free, but tax deferred. So both can be very profitable. It really depends on projects. I don't know, like if that helps you answer them. But if you're selling, there's fees related with it. So ideally, a 1031 project is probably a little bit better. Again, some property, if it's pure value add, you're looking for appreciation, equity, forced appreciation that you want to sell. Because if you do a refi, you won't be able to cash flow. So that's a position that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, great point. All right,
Kavitha,
one
there's some
question.
questions in the chat box as
Yeah,
well.
I'll go. And I've looked at the chat box and I kind of alluded to some of them. Obviously, we recommend passive and active if that's what you want, Bharat. I think you should look at both. I've enjoyed my past active investments, but I've realized older people don't like active investments anymore. They're like, I don't want to deal with this crap anymore. I'm done. I just want mailbox money, right? It depends on which point in your life you are, how hard you want to work, and where your focus is. Is this what you really enjoy doing, or is this some pain in the butt that you're dealing with because you need to make money? Um, Sound financial strategy should be based on multiple asset classes that includes equity, real estate, and other asset classes. You should not be overweighted with any class. I would disagree with that slightly because I think if you kind of look at the financial strategy, it should be based on what you're really good at managing well. If you suck at doing equities, why put your money there, right? You don't really understand it. What you understand well, you do well. So I think that's kind of
Warren Buffett had the best quote on this one. I can't exactly quote it, but it's basically, he said diversification is for people who doesn't know, like just like, you know, people who doesn't know what they're doing. Is basically hedging against like not knowing. And then you want to double down on things that you do well on. So I thought that's like just the best thing.
Yeah.
You know,
if you're confident and you have the knowledge, then you want to double down on it, because that achieves a much higher effect than just diversifying and then not doing well in any particular thing. Right. Any other recommendation for conferences? We have to put together something for folks in the conference to talk about other conferences that they can attend to educate themselves. How are the tax benefits coming into picture when investing in SDIRA? Actually attend the conference. We'll actually talk about IRA. I had to deflect, but you don't really get any tax benefits when you do an IRA. And that's because your retirement account is investing, but we're still going through all of these IRA, solo 401ks, and how you can invest through them. Why do most syndicators, and we're going to wrap up with this question because it's way over time. I always go over time. Why do most syndicators sell after 3 to 7 years? Who's taking this one?
Oh yeah, I will. Well, you don't want to get married for so long, right? I mean, that's it. That's the reason.
The 7-year itch. Before you get the 7-year itch.
So, you know, like people have different goals. They change their goals differently. So you want to wrap up a project. So as a syndicator, you want to wrap up a project because when you go full cycle, then you have the power to buy more. And then your investor is going to double on that. And then you're going to purchase power is going to be a little bit more. But mostly it's because you can put an end to something. Sometimes we put a syndication together, we would do a refi and you would still do a continue hold. But at some point, the train has to come to an end. You know, so there's certain types of buyouts that needs to happen. Can't be going on.
Book your
and we
profit.
get tired of sending your distributions too. So we just want a break.
Book your profit and move on.
Yeah. But you know, you can continue invest with someone, continue on and on to the next deal, and then a part of the exit is to also release that equity, because when you buy a property, you have a loan on it. But as you add a value, let's say you add a value, double the value, right? Then your equity is going to be halved, right? So then you're not kind of making the best of your equity. So your return of investment becomes lower the longer you hold it. So you want to kind of release that money and put it back into the cycle.
Yeah, your IRR goes down. So you just want to get your money out and then move it, right? Like we can do more projects with it. So anyway, that was it. Thank you guys so much, my panelists, my partners in crime, and I'm looking forward to our conference. Thank you guys for coming on board and talking so much. And I learned a lot today, and I hope you guys learned too. And for the 30 something people that are still hanging around after 1.5 hours, or is it 2 hours almost? 2 hours. It's 9:22. Thank you guys for joining in. Hope this was useful. I will be posting this on YouTube and also a Facebook as well. So if you guys want to catch up or you want to go through something, feel free to. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week for a conference. I hope you're registered. If you're not, please do. I hope you'll enjoy it and you'll learn a lot, I promise. Thank you guys.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
you. Thank you.